Hi everyone, welcome to my no-code chatbots presentation. I'm Steph Locke, CEO at Nightingale HQ. I have a data science and AI background. I'm a Microsoft Data Platform and AI MVP, which up until this year meant that I got to go around and meet great people in person whilst talking lots of tech. You can catch up with me on Twitter and LinkedIn, and I'm here to answer questions as this live streams. So what we're going to do today, first of all, is I'm going to kick off with the demos. So we're going to see 3 demos of how to make some no-code chatbots. And then we're actually going to take this remainder of the time to take a step back and look at what chatbots are, where you would use them, how you're going to be successful at them, because the code bit really is the easiest bit. And then, as well as some of the things that I demo, we'll look at some other technologies. So, first up is no-code chatbots. Let's get making some. The first type of chatbot that we are going to make is an FAQ bot. So an FAQ bot is the easiest way to get started with chatbots inside your organization. And the primary goal of an FAQ bot is to answer questions. This is a great way of reducing time for decision making on the part of potential customers, but it's also a great customer services and internal tool. You can use FAQ bots to answer repeat IT help desk questions, for instance. So the first way that we're going to do it is through my website, app.nightingalehq.ai, because we've built a really easy way to get going. And it's free, so you can sign up and give it a go. So you go to the website, you then give us your questions. You can paste them in, or you can give us a URL. Throughout all of this, I'm using the SQL Bits FAQs. You give it some personality, and then you log into your Azure account, and then you'll be able to click Setup. There's a lot of wait times involved in some of these setting up of bots and things, so most of these things we'll fast forward through quite quickly. So setting up your bot, what it's going to do behind the scenes is set up a technology called qnamaker for AI for finding answers to questions based on what you've uploaded, and then it will create a bot that connects to it. This will be then made available online, and we'll be able to instantly start querying it. So I've put a video within a video here, just whilst we're waiting. We're going to end up with many of these bots that we deploy with being able to use an iframe to be able to embed them inside a website. That's one of the easiest ways of getting started, but our FAQ chatbot can actually go and connect to Facebook. It can be integrated into Teams, and as of Ignite, also announcing a WhatsApp integration. So here we can see our chatbot that has been deployed, and we can now ask questions. And because it's AI driven, it's going to try and do the best it can. So we can even just say little things like bits virtual. So that's our simplest way of not writing any code, but getting a working chatbot. If you want to do it yourself from scratch, so you get to see more of the moving parts, we can do that. So this relies on, as we said, qnamaker.ai, but is set up from inside Azure to begin with. So the first thing that you need is a qnamaker resource. This is a type of cognitive service available from Microsoft. And you give it all the standard things. You give it a resource group, you give it some information about what level of throughput you're expecting. And it has a number of different pieces, Azure Search and an app service. So this is a way that Microsoft have been able to scale this out and allow you to keep as much data and control as possible. Note that it sets pricing as standard to the S1 tier. You can go and change this, but it means that your no-code chatbot will cost about £50 to £80 per month by default. So if you're just doing a proof of concept, make sure you go and change that. Once you've made the Q&A resource, which can take a couple of minutes, we will then be able to go and add our questions to it. So this mimics the first step of the earlier graphical interface approach. Once we have it, we go to qnamaker.ai, we sign in, and we can then create a knowledge base based on our SQL Bits FAQs. We do it inside our qnamaker service that we created. We can add chit chat. We know SQL Bits is friendly, witty, and all around good fun. So now we can create the knowledge base, and like the setup behind the scenes previously, this is going to go and hit that web page and turn it into lots of questions and answers. So this is a great way to be able to take an existing solution and make it easily a website. So you train your model. Once that's done, we can go and publish it. This makes it basically an API, a way that other computers can talk to our service, but very handily, it also gives us a Create Bot button. This sends the information about the Q&A service and some instructions back to the Azure portal and enables us to deploy a web bot. This has some bits and pieces worth noting. It has a Microsoft App ID and password. This is a service principal that will talk to the bot securely from your channels where you use it, so that not just anyone can hook up to your bot. So when we go through deploying the web app, that will deploy a couple of things that connect to our qnamaker, mainly a web app, which is our bot code base. We haven't had to write any code just yet. And a bot registration, which is our bot interface for hooking it up to channels and things. So now that we have our bot deployed, we can, like we did previously, we can go in and we can test it. And retrieve information. Things, we can set it up to work with speech, we can do the channels, we can see analytics about how it's performing, and yeah, we can grab most easily the iframe. Depending on where you want to implement it, you can customize look and feel, you can do speech, and so on. Another way to build bots without any code is the Bot Composer. This is an open source bot development tool from Microsoft that enables you to build bots that deploy both to Azure and Power Virtual Agents, which is the Power Platform bot solution. We're going to keep the trend of answering our SQL bit questions as part of our bot. So first of all, we need a Q&A resource. We've seen this before. This is a really key part of answering a lot of questions that people might have. And inevitably, even when your bot does other things, you still usually need to answer some questions. Now that we're creating our Q&A maker, we can go and we can start a bot. Now that we're making a Q&A maker resource, we can go and start our bot inside the Bot Composer program on our desktop. We're going to create a new bot from scratch. I'm just going to call it SQL Bits 2 because I tried one earlier. By default, this enables us to perform multiple actions which get triggered by certain things. So the first thing that our bot always does is have a greeting. When people start accessing our bot, we see welcome to the empty bot sample as our start. Obviously, with your no-code bot, you're going to want to change that. We can also go and add things that get triggered. Intents are managed by Lewis, but here we're going to use the Q&A intent. So if it looks like somebody's asking a question, we're going to do some Q&A capabilities. So we could add them manually, but we're going to do our standard SQL bit FAQ web page import. So this is going to use one of Microsoft's shared resources to first of all get those Q&A pairs. We can now use those, but to be able to work with our bot, we have to publish the subscription. We have to publish the knowledge base. So we get our subscription key, that's going to go away, update our knowledge base like we've seen previously in terms of updates. And then we'll be able to work with our bot. So now, as well as a default greeting, our bot will work to be able to answer questions. So we've seen 3 different ways of creating Q&A bots and other capabilities with no code. On this one, it takes a little bit more to get published. So you can deploy to a framework, and then there are ARM templates and setup instructions that you can follow to create the necessary infrastructure for this bot. But once that's done, you can repeatedly publish to the bot, and this is a nice source-controlled way of doing things, and it also supports many different other types of actions, whereas the Q&A bots that we've seen previously were focused on answering that specific use case. This is a more flexible solution and deploys both to Azure and will now soon deploy to power virtual agents as well. Okay, so those were our demos. Hopefully you now see that you can make bots without code. So we've seen them in action, but let's take a bit more of a detailed look. So, what actually are chatbots behind the scenes? Chatbots enable us to communicate both between ourselves, computers, and digital assistants. You might be thinking, how does a bot compare to an application? We deploy to Azure web apps, so is a bot not just some code, an application? So we usually think of an app as actually a graphical user interface. It is something that people interact with a mouse or a keyboard or touch on a mobile screen to be able to perform actions. We also live in a world of digital assistants now with Siri and Cortana, and these are a speech interface. Their job is to interact with things behind the scenes, but their primary goal is to take speech and turn it into text. And then finally, a bot is fundamentally a text interface for performing tasks. So applications are a lot of front end overlaying business logic with data behind the scenes. Traditionally, if we're doing AI, it'll be somewhere between, somewhere inside the data or the business logic, but will be part of delivering the overall application. A digital assistant is an audio interface to perform actions. It will use speech to text to translate what has been said into text, and then uses natural language processing to work out what was the intent behind what was said and any pertinent details like what song to play if you say, hey Spotify, play All Along the Watchtower. It will then take that information and pass it along to skills or bots, ways of specific pieces of programming performing activities. So there's a lot of AI inside a digital assistant, and usually very, very little or non-existent business logic or data, because those things sit inside the application or a bot to be interacted with. As we said, bots are a primarily text interface. They use natural language processing to understand what has been said. And they usually hit business logic workflows or APIs to be able to talk to different things, for instance, the Spotify API. So the AI is a lot slimmer inside a bot because it only has to go one step. It has to do the natural language processing to go from text to what should happen. So this is where the connected experience comes in, and why no-code bots can really help you change the way people interact with your business. So we've got apps, bots, and digital assistants. Your customer can use your app to find products, so in sort of an e-commerce scenario. They can use the bot to ask questions to find out whether things are in stock. They can set reminders to buy a product using their digital assistant, and that will actually go to the bot, which has a reminder function, and then that will hit up the API of the app behind the scenes. They could then, once they've been reminded, go and buy a product. They can, once they receive it, request a return label using the chatbot customer service capability, and then leave a review verbally on how we worked with them to make it as easy as possible to try our stuff and do things like process a return. So we excel at customer services with very minimal human intervention, but they still feel connected. So that's chatbots. Knowing when a chatbot is appropriate and the sorts of use cases that it's good for is really handy for prioritizing where you should consider a no-code chatbot. So a great place to start is knowledge queries. The FAQs is an easy proof of concept to get started with. You've seen 3 ways of doing it, and even when I have the wait times put in, you can get a great FAQ bot started in under 10 minutes with no code. So these are a fantastic and appropriate way to use a chatbot. You can use it for contextual questions as well, so it can start being more sophisticated. So if somebody says, "What are your opening hours?" you can say, "Which branch are you talking about? Are you talking about our Cardiff branch, our Bristol branch, or Bath?" And they can say Cardiff and get the right answer for that specific branch. It's also really useful for status updates. Why have somebody answering a phone or making somebody go log into a website and go through lots of screens when somebody could just ask the bot to quickly give them a notification? So a great example of the FAQ chatbot is a UK mental health charity, My Discombobulated Brain. So we set up an FAQ bot with them very quickly and easily to help answer questions. And the great thing is now, on the homepage for this charity, there is a completely non-judgmental way to find information and start understanding what your options are when you're feeling distressed. As a charity, that means they're able to answer and help so many more people without having to increase their number of volunteers, having to be always available on a phone or through a chat system. We can also use chatbots as interfaces to applications. So for our productivity tools like DevOps and GitHub, we can use a bot to be able to create new tickets. So you might see this inside your Teams or Slack. You can add bot interfaces to your productivity tools. They're a great alternative to forms, although you do have to be careful about the size of the form. Nobody wants to fill in a visa application that's usually 300 pages inside a chatbot. It can be really useful for workflows, for helping somebody kick various things off and creating push notifications and bot workflows on other people's processes. So things like holiday approvals are fantastic for this. And push notifications. So giving us a way for something to happen asynchronously and to come back and say, "Hey, thank you, we've got your return, we've got this information, is there anything else we need to know?" So again, it becomes a great hybrid around workflows and push notifications that helps people really just do things in a way that is easier than working with a full-blown application. So COVID-19 has been obviously a very big thing. World Health Organization set up a chatbot to help people check their symptoms and perform different actions, like check what their knowledge about COVID-19 is like. So they worked with a company to build symptom checking and other capabilities in, and this has helped hundreds to thousands of people around the world feel safer. You can also use chatbots to help scale your e-commerce organization. So Letterbox Lab are a company that do science kits for children. When all the kids were at home during lockdown, parents were looking for more things for their kids to do. With only 2 people in the business, they were swamped and found it really difficult to set things up, to cope with the volume that they were now having to deal with. So creating a FAQ chatbot meant that they were able to go to where their customers were trying to interact with them, Facebook, and be able to answer those queries immediately. And the great thing was that resulted in an extra sale completely unattended on the first day of the app. If you're thinking about digital assistance, a chatbot is a great place to start. A chatbot is kind of the don't repeat yourself of the cool new AI interfaces in the world. If you make a chatbot, it gives you a text interface and then speech-to-text capabilities over the top of it from things like the Azure bot service, or connecting it to Siri and things like that becomes so much easier. So you can use it to support interactions with things like smart speakers. It helps people who might have dexterity issues or find typing difficult at a given time to be able to then go and do voice interactions instead. And it helps you define how things should work in terms of integrating with your app. A chatbot is also a graceful fallback in the event that the speech service goes down or a speech service is inappropriate. So it is a great way of increasing the inclusive design principles around your application. You can support voice, text, and touch, which is making your service available to the most amount of people. Having a speech to text to logic capability is really useful in things like call centers. You can have a speech interface that can be used to go and find out information via the bot. It can go do the business logic calls through your application and then go and perform other actions. So I'm mostly focused on the Microsoft space, but the Amazon kit is also very effective for building bots. Okay, so you know what bots are, you know how you use them, or when you should recommend them. So what do you need to be successful when you do go and build your first bots? So first thing to think about is, where is the right place to start? Who will benefit the most? Who's under the most stress? Particularly, what will help them the most? Is it there's really long times to get through service desk tickets, so people are having to wait like a day to get a password reset? Or is it people are phoning up trying to get status updates all the time? If you can look at your business and start prioritizing potential use cases for bots, you can start using them where they're most effective. I recommend you start small. Don't try to bot all the things. Pick one use case. Make sure that you have application insights and things turned on. This helps you work out whether your bot is used and whether people continue to use it when it's proving valuable. And then expand gradually. We've seen no-code bot solutions, but practically, as you start using bots in a lot of places inside your organization, you're going to want to start putting DevOps practices in, coding, standards, testing, and all of those things. So instead of trying to do all of that from the beginning, start small, start with a proof of concept, and rebuild or improve your capability as you grow. Because then you always have the backing of the people who are getting the most value out of what you've built. A kind of a new part of the user experience space is called conversational UI or conversational design. I mentioned earlier that a chatbot can be a really great way of making a form nicer to fill in, but if it's a 300-page form, people are going to hate it. So understanding how you design those workflows, how you design how the bot talks to people, and the interface is a really key thing. So this will be an area where on your first bot, you'll need to put some thought into, and as you grow, as you grow your bot usage in the company, you'll think more and more about. So, we've seen some making of bots with no code. You now have a firmer understanding of what chatbots are, some great use cases for them, and some of the things you need to think about for delivering these projects successfully. Before we wrap up, I just want to quickly talk about some of the technologies available to you. The first place to go for great bot technology is Microsoft. The bot framework is an open source software development kit that enables you to write bots in a variety of languages, host them in Azure, or host them wherever is relevant to you. They come with numerous accelerators, templates, and tons of documentation. The bot framework is a great place to start, especially if you're already a Microsoft shop. The AWS feature stack around bots is also very well advanced. If most of your infrastructure is already in AWS, this is a great way to do things. It also has some no or low code ways of creating bots so that you can get that rapid proof of concept capability even if you're not a Microsoft shop. Finally, There are tons of bot providers out there right now, but one that we particularly like as a little startup is ChatFuel. They enable you to create your FAQs, you can add elements, and they're also free to get started and can do integrations into Facebook and things like the big players can. So here is another demo of being able to do, with a no-code capability, create things inside the ChatFuel user experience, including Q&A capabilities. So as you can see, this is a bit more user-friendly than the bot composer, but gives you more flexibility than the Q&A. Insert your Q&A here, get a bot out of it options. Okay, so now that we've seen some recommended technologies, it's about time for us to wrap up for the day. So what should you be thinking about next? First, your use cases. Which is more important right now? Is it informing people, so FAQs? Is it acting, providing workflows, or integrating between systems and helping people from a kind of a productivity or systems perspective? We've got lots of resources, and I'll post these links as well, on how to get started and things like conversational design. So before you embark on a bot project, talks like this are a great way to start, but also reading up on the different technologies and working out which ones fit where, what kind of things you'll need to think about from a conversation design perspective, and just kind of do a bit of reading as well as getting your hands on some of it and giving it a good play. So thank you all very much. I really appreciate your time today. As I said at the beginning of the talk, you're more than welcome to connect with me on Twitter and LinkedIn. You've seen 4 different ways of building chatbots that don't require any code. This is hopefully enough to help you get started. And if you do encounter any problems, do hit me up on Twitter or LinkedIn. Thank you all very much.